Okay, we're live. Welcome back to another episode of Count the Bucket. I am your host, Amber Vickers. I have my co host to the right of me, Mr. Andrew Williams, and I'm happy that he's back. I missed you. Missed
Yeah,
you.
I miss being on, miss talking. It's been a long ride. Lot of COVID stuff going on. Was in quarantine. Didn't have COVID, but was able to get the vaccine. Had a daughter sickness, but I'm happy to be back. A lot of basketball's been going on. A lot of good stuff to talk about. Still depressed because Kentucky's terrible. So college basketball's let me down and depressed me. But the NBA is going good, and I'm happy to talk about it.
There's been a lot of action, Andrew, and non action. I don't think the Washington Wizards have played in like a week. Memphis has canceled their next three games, I
Yeah.
believe, if I'm thinking correctly. Injuries all over the place. It's just been a lot going on. So thus far, I think we're probably about 15, we're probably about 14 games in. There's a lot of action going on tonight. Thus far, how have you felt about this NBA season?
Well, you expect the NBA to kind of be on the forefront of leading the charge in health and safety. And I think what they've realized is that it's a little bit harder to do when they're not doing a bubble. The bubble worked out great. It wasn't possible to do a bubble for a long season because you saw even in the shortened season last year, the players started to get crazy and staying in the bubble for that long, and that was difficult for them. So I think they're realizing how hard it is. But I mean, the NFL took the stance basically, hey, we don't care what happens, we're playing. Like we don't care. Like if half your team's out, we don't care, whatever. The NBA right now, they're having to cancel a lot of games. It just kind of is what we kind of expected, I guess, a little bit. They're having to cancel a lot of games. I think the NBA is just going to continue to push through. I don't think they can afford to take a break. I just don't. And so I think that you just kind of got to push through, keep playing, and see how it goes. There's been some good basketball. There's been the teams that we thought, a lot of the teams that we thought that would be good are good. A lot of the teams now, but also in the same regard, some of the teams that we expected to be good been awful, and it's been, and vice versa. So this has been an interesting season. I think that we've got a large enough sample size to know that we have learned some things. I think that there's enough sample size now not to make final judgments, but to be able to say, all right, we know this is probably likely. And so it's been an interesting time up this far, and it'll be interesting going forward as long as everybody's healthy going towards the playoffs. I think the NBA is just going to keep pushing through.
You know what? That's my sentiments exactly. But I did think that the NBA would take a 2 week pause. I did think that when COVID is just. I said this before on my podcast, Step Back Sisterhood. How do you keep those guys from getting COVID? How do you do that?
You saw George Hill come out a week or two ago.
Yeah, I saw that.
I don't care. Like he's like the NBA's like, I'm a grown man. You're not going to tell me what to do. And then you saw Shai Gilgeous-Alexander come out not so long later, and he's like, you know what, I'll do whatever it takes to be able to play. So you've got some guys in the league that it's like, you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm a grown man, and I understand that. But then you've got some guy, I want to play, and I'll do what it takes to play. And so because there's not a consensus, like I can tell you that there's a group of players that I'm sure are taking it very serious, and we could probably guess who those guys are. But because there's not a consensus, this is going to continue to happen. It's going to be up and down. Adam Silver said, we don't want to jump to the front of the line when it comes to vaccines. We don't want to jump past other people. And so, this may just be a bumpy road for a while. This season may just be a bumpy road. I kind of think the NBA will they'll keep going because I think that this is one time that I think the NFL normally is a joke. I love the NFL, but I think normally it's a joke when it comes to like Roger Goodell making decisions. But, I think the NBA is going to look at that and say, hey, they pushed through, they made it. They're probably going to get a Super Bowl. And I think the NBA is going to keep playing. And good news, the Miami Heat said they're bringing COVID-sniffing dogs to detect COVID. So I don't know. That's true, by the way. I read that. I don't know if that's possible or what that means, but apparently the Heat will have COVID sniffing dogs.
You learn something new every day, Andrew. And this is new information for me. COVID sniffing dogs.
I don't
You know
know
what?
if that's possible, but it is what it is.
That's interesting. And for me, the season is what it is. And you knew that this would happen, postponement and things like that. When the Wizards, they finally were able to get back into their practice facility this week. So it was kind of like, okay, we can practice now. We haven't practiced in so long that we gotta get our legs back, get our lungs back, and that's tough. Memphis is gonna miss the next 3 games. Are they able to practice? I'm not sure. I don't think I read that in the report. But I'm thinking if they can't play, they can't practice, right?
Right.
Okay, so they're not going to be practicing or playing, and they were on the 5-game winning streak, I believe. So you kind of stop them in the middle of their winning streak. So this is going to affect a lot of teams. You know what's surprising? I'm going to say this, and I know you're a Lakers fan. I'm going to say this. Somehow, some way, those LA teams keep churning. You know what I mean? It's kind of like in LA, they're just churning. They haven't had any COVID related happen in LA, but I know California COVID laws are stricter. Then the Clippers are churning.
It's weird because and I don't know, and this is total. What I'm going to say is like total guesswork. I have no clue. So
Okay.
I'm baiting. I'm just going to make a couple of guesses. It's weird because California's had like very bad outbreaks of COVID. They have stricter restrictions, but in the same regard, they've been hit really hard in California. But you may have to look at those California teams and say, and I don't know what it is, but maybe it's leadership. Maybe the leaders on the team like set the tone and be like, hey, we're taking this serious, and the rest of you guys are going to take it serious. And I'm just thinking maybe it's that. I don't know. I could be completely wrong about that. But you see those teams that are just the Lakers. Caruso was out for a couple of games. I don't think he had COVID. It was just safety protocols. The Clippers, I know Kawhi and Paul George have been there. The Warriors, I don't think have had anything. But what's the common denominator there is you got like a star player. You know what I mean? Like LeBron, Kawhi, Steph Curry, and maybe that's it. And maybe it's just like completely random and it's total luck. But right now, the California teams seem to be just kind of pushing through, and hopefully that. Listen, I hope that continues to be the case because the Lakers look really good, and I don't think that they're even close to hitting what they can be, but they look really good right now, and I'm hoping that this trend of all right, we're not really being affected by COVID. I hope that sticks.
I always say this as a basketball enthusiast: when the Lakers and the Knicks are good, basketball's good, and I don't know why that is. I guess playing it used to be the old Forum, but now it's Staples Center. And then playing in the Mecca, MSG. That's just what it is. And when those two teams are good, basketball's good.
Well, and the thing is like history matters. You know what I mean? Yes. Like even when basketball, like we all get nostalgic. And when you think of the Lakers, it's like, going back, Jerry West and Elgin Baylor and Wilt and Kareem and Magic and James Worthy. I mean, like the history's been there. With the Knicks, you think about Willis Reed coming out, like running out at the Garden and on a bum ankle and playing and winning that game. You think about that stuff because history matters. And it is. Basketball is really fun when the Lakers are good and the Knicks are good. Even the Celtics, when the Celtics are good.
Yeah.
There's a couple of teams that are like historical staple teams that you look and say, all right. And fun when the Lakers had like Robert Sacre and friggin', like a bunch of bums on their team. Like that was terrible. And the Knicks, it's been sad because the only reason that people have cared about the Knicks is just for the last couple of years is people's just been running there and putting up 50 pieces against them. And it's just like, LeBron comes in and drops 50. Steph Curry comes in and drops 50. KD comes in and has a big game. But now it's like, hey, the Knicks have something, and it's exciting. Like that's exciting when you get historical franchises who have had that history built in, and they're able to win.
I like that because history usually repeats itself.
Yeah,
I remember maybe 2 years, was it a year back, when people were wanting Boston and the Lakers to be in a championship. I think it was last year. People were like, yeah, Boston, LA,
yeah,
NBA Finals. So people want to see that history. And then when you had Kobe going against those Celtics as well, the New York Wildcats.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, you had Kobe and the Celtics playing against each other. That was beautiful to watch because it brought back that old, rich history.
yeah.
And I love to see those type of matchups. I'm liking what the Knicks are doing. I'm loving what Tibbs is doing. People are like, oh, Tibbs is going to run that team into the ground. Those young guys are balling.
Yeah.
I think Emmanuel quickly should get more minutes. That's just me personally. I've
Let's
said that on numerous occasions.
let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Did you know? This is a did you know fact about the Knicks. Did you know the Knicks were number one in the NBA in defense?
But that's a Tibbs thing. Like that's
Yeah.
like that has Tibbs fingerprints all over it. Like that's who he is. But I tell you a couple of things that the Knicks that has been pleasantly, one thing that's not surprising because I told everybody, but one thing that is pleasantly surprising. I'll go with the pleasantly surprising thing first. Julius Randle good,
Mm-hmm.
and that surprised me because he's not had a good last 2 years. He is somebody who is talented. He had some good years for the Lakers. Didn't really do anything for the Pelicans in that short stint. And now, but now that he's with New York and he's got Tibbs with him, he's had a very productive season, and I'm happy because that's obviously a Kentucky guy, and
Yeah.
I think he's been very impressive up to this point. The thing that I wasn't surprised about because I told everybody in the group chat, I told CJ, I told everybody, I said Emmanuel Quickly is the truth. I said that kid is a very, very good basketball player. And I will stand by what I said at the beginning before he was ever drafted. I said he is better than Tyler Hero. I believe that. I will still. I listen. I know Tyler Hero got blew up last year, and everybody was talking. I mean, some people were like, "We're not giving him up for James Harden." Like it was insanity. And Tyler Hero's great. I like Tyler Hero, another Kentucky guy, but Emmanuel Quickly's a great basketball player. He's a great shooter. He's got one of the best running floaters in the game. That's an underrated part of his game. He is able to get that running floater off when he's driving to the paint, almost as good as anybody in the NBA. He's got pretty good size. He's just a smart basketball player. He's a good guy. Like he was a great guy. I can say that because like he was at Kentucky. He everybody raved about him at Kentucky. He's a great guy. He's got great head on his shoulders, and he will be an important part of the Knicks going forward. It wouldn't shock me to see Emmanuel Quickly make an all-star team later down the road. I mean, it might be a while, but like I think Emmanuel Quickly is a great player.
All right. Michael said, do you think Kenny Payne has helped Randall? That's your guy, Kenny Payne.
I 100% do. Like because and you say Michael knows, like Michael's a Kentucky guy like me. Kentucky struggled without Kenny Payne. Like Kenny Payne's like the big guy whisperer. Our bigs have always been good, and Kenny Payne has been the guy that was in charge of that at Kentucky. And then you look like this year. So look at Kentucky basketball. Our bigs are pretty terrible. Like we're struggling, but the Knicks, Randall's playing good. And Nerlens Noel's not playing bad. There's a couple of bigs there that Kenny Payne, and players love Kenny Payne. I think he's been great for the Knicks, and I do think that he's helped Randall regain his confidence and play really good.
Something about comfort zone that I like in sports. When you get someone you're comfortable with, that you're familiar with, you tend to perform better.
Familiarity.
I love it. And I remember when I had my AAU coach and she went on to she went on to coach college basketball. I went to go play for her my freshman year. Familiarity. We won a ring. It was great to see. Yeah. But that's what players like. They like someone they can trust because it's so hard to trust people.
Yeah.
I think personally it's hard to trust people. With the money you have, the fame you have, the status you have, it's hard to trust people.
And that's elevated in the NBA because
Yeah.
these guys have hangers on and people that are leeches that are trying to leech off of them. And if you find somebody that you're comfortable with, that you know that has your back, you're going to gravitate towards that person. That's why I still stand by this. There's going to be a big name Kentucky player that ends up in New York, and I don't know. I mean, I don't know who it'll be. Devin Booker and the Suns are looking great. It may not be him, but Karl Towns is really Karl Towns and the Wolves are really struggling. Karl Towns had a terrible year. I mean, just as far as like his personal life, he's had a real big struggle this year. It would not shock me if Karl was like, I want to be in New York. Because of that familiarity, because having KP there, and I know, listen, I'm not saying that like KP is this like the greatest coach of all time. I'm just saying that players like to be around him. That he was a big time recruiter at Kentucky. He recruited a lot of those guys, and if they can now go to an NBA team and say, I can trust this guy, and I know that he's got my back, that's a big deal for them. And I do think there will be a big name Kentucky player that ends up in New York because of Kenny Payne.
We have this on record, ladies and gentlemen. So if Andrew's right, then hey, you heard it here first on Count the Bucket.
I honestly believe that because like I said, Kenny Payne recruited. If you look back from 2010 until last year, you're looking at all of those dudes. Wall, Cousins, Anthony Davis, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. He's not a big time player, but you had Nerlens Noel, who's obviously there, Julius Randle Harrison twins, Jamal Murray, Karl Towns, Devin Booker, like all these dudes. Kenny Payne recruited those guys, and if they're able to connect back with him in the NBA, I think that's something they would jump at.
I agree. We're gonna shift gears to another team in New York that's making some noise. They just happen to be in a different borough. That's in Brooklyn. And the Brooklyn Nets. Now, this is an interesting team to me. I'm a big KD fan. I know, ladies and gentlemen, I'm from Oklahoma City. People think I should just hate KD. First of all, I don't use the word hate. I don't hate anyone. Let's get that out the way. Secondly, basketball is a business. You have to understand it as a business. Now, people don't always make the best business decisions, but it's life. Okay, life moves on. OKC fans, life moves on. You guys are taunted Kevin Durant enough. You taunted him so much, he's second in the league in scoring right now for a torn Achilles. I mean, the man is putting up great numbers right now. He's got to respect it. You got to respect it. But the Brooklyn Nets, have you been able to watch them play with Harden? And well, it was KD and Harden, and then it was when Kyrie was absent, and then we got all three of them. And tonight we just have Harden and Kyrie because of, Kevin Durant can't play the back-to-backs because of his Achilles. Have you gotten a chance to watch them play at all since everything, I guess, went down?
Yeah, no, I've watched them multiple times. they're going to lose tonight against the Cavs again. Durant's out like you said. But I watched the last Cavs game, which was Colin Sexton was phenomenal. I mean, he was absolutely amazing. That was the first time they had them all three together. I watched the two games with KD and Harden, and Amber, I've talked a lot. So I want to ask you first. What do you think about them? Like, what do you think about their pairing?
I don't mind it. I've said this plenty of times before. Kevin Durant, you can throw him out because he's going to be efficient no matter what. You can throw him out. It's the Kyrie and Harden dynamic that I want to see. Looks good. The Nets don't have any depth, and they can't play defense. So, no depth, can't play defense. They signed someone today. He played for the 76ers. Pell?
Yeah, something. Yeah, he was a G League guy.
Yeah, he played with 76ers last year because when people were watching the game, I wasn't able to watch the Cavaliers and Nets game, the first one or this one today. They said the Nets are just giving up the paint. Like, it's just free reign, like layup in the paint. And Colin Sexton had, I think, 25 tonight. So not the last show he put on in double overtime, but he still was able to put up numbers. I think he's having a great year, by the way.
Yeah.
And I'm loving the leaps that he's taken. The Nets need some depth. They need some defense. In the playoffs, you need depth. But when you got three guys you can't stop, does that kind of balance out you not being able to stop anybody else, or you get those couple of stops when you need it and then score on the other end? That's what I'm really trying to figure out, because when the playoffs come, those guys are going to turn up to a different level completely. They'll probably get the stops they need on defense and do what they do on offense. It's just the depth that bothers me for the Nets. They got rid of three guys that I love: Torian Prince, Jared Allen, and Karis LeVert. Which Karis LeVert getting traded to the Pacers basically saved his life. We're praying for Karis LeVert every day. So, how do you get the stops you need on defense in order to win enough games? But in the playoffs, I think they're going to turn up a different notch. But
so let me ask you this. So as constructed right now, say they make no other moves, which I don't think is true. I think they will make some more moves.
Yeah.
But let's say no other moves. What is their ceiling right now? What is the farthest they can go? Can they win a NBA championship as constructed right now?
No, because they can't get the stops. But I still had them. I had them in my Eastern Conference Finals. I had them as my Eastern Conference champ before they made the trade. Now, making the trade, you lost that depth and you lost that defense pretty much. So my thought didn't change getting Harden, but watching them, I'm like, but I want to see them play all together at once for multiple games. You kind of got to see that happen. I have them going to the finals no matter what in the East. I just don't think you can stop those three guys from scoring, and I think on defense they will turn it up. I just love the way the Nets just had the cojones and said, we're going to go get Harden. I love it. I can't pick against the Nets because I don't know who's going to stop them. You could say Philly, but Philly, you just don't know what you're going to get with Philly, even though it seems like Doc Rivers has turned that team around and they have found an identity. You could say the Celtics, we don't know about Kemba's health. We don't know where that is. Who else in the East? The Bucks, I don't trust the Bucks at all. I haven't trusted the Bucks ever in the playoffs. So those are the only teams that are threats to the Nets, those three teams. And I wanted it to be just lost to the Raptors by 20 tonight. And did they? Yes, I think they did. Yeah, they lost to the Raptors 81-101 tonight. So how do you lose to the Raptors by 20 and they didn't have Kyle Lowry? Their leading scorer was Norman Powell. Norman Powell can play, but he had 23. I mean, Miami, I don't know what's going on in Miami. They haven't had all their players either. I don't think Tyler Hero played tonight. That COVID in Miami is something else. They haven't had all their players basically all season long, pretty much. So those are the only three threats in the East to Brooklyn. And if you look at those matchups, you're saying to yourself, who can stop those guys? Because they're going to score. Can you score enough points to beat them? That's what it's going to come down to.
I got a completely different view.
Okay.
My view is opposite. Now, you obviously Sean Marks, GM for the Nets. You're right. You to be able to do that trade, you have to have a lot of courage. You have to have a lot of bravery. You know what I'm saying? Because that's a big deal. But in the midst of that trade, you gave up a lot. And you already talked about what they gave up. And specifically, what they gave up is important to me. And the specifics being Jared Allen. Now, here's the deal. They've lost Dinwiddie for the year, okay? They have no bench. None. I mean, let's just – it is what it is. They have zero bench, right? DeAndre Jordan is a shell of himself. Now, I know those dudes are going to put up numbers. They're going to. That's the way it is. But their offense is weird at this point. KD can play off the ball. He's fine. He's one of the greatest scorers of all time. You can get him the ball anywhere on the floor, and he's fine, okay? But Harden and Kyrie have to have the ball in their hands. Like, that's just how it works. And so you're going to get to a point, you say, well, they're going to turn up in the playoffs. Well, we know the playoffs are different. And you get a 7-game sample size to prepare for a team that you're playing. And the Nets a lot of times play your turn, my turn. All right, Kyrie, now it's your turn. James Harden, now it's your turn. KD, now it's your turn. And that's not an offense. Like that's all right, I'm going to let this guy ISO. I'm going to let this guy ISO. I'm going to let this guy ISO. Yeah, they might put up 135 points, but what's their weakness? They got two. Number one, they have no bench. Mm-hmm. And number two, they can't stop bigs. They can't stop a team with good bigs. They won't. And Kyrie and Harden are not the best defensive players. So you may have instances where Colin Sexton drops 40 on you, and there's nothing those guys are doing about it. I mean, there's just not. So let's think about the teams for a second that they will have to go against, because it's obvious they're going to be around in the playoffs, and that's obvious. I'm with you. I don't trust Milwaukee, okay? Like, anytime I see Milwaukee play a big game, they lose. And we know in the playoffs, they've not shown anything. And to be honest with you, Giannis hasn't been at the same level yet this year. I mean, he's had a good year, but not like his last couple of seasons, and maybe he's ramping it up. Okay, so I don't trust Milwaukee. I'll take the Nets. The Celtics. The Celtics are interesting to me, and here's why. The Celtics have a humongous trade exception from the Gordon Hayward trade, like a huge trade exception. So basically, they can go out and trade for a guy that has a super high salary and bring him into Boston with that trade exception. So, Amber, what do the Celtics need? A big, right? Like they need a big. Who is a big that is out there that has a really high salary, that has 1 year remaining in his contract, that's had a pretty good year so far this year, that they could bring in? Andre Drummond. Andre Drummond from the Cavs. If you're the Celtics, you look at Andre Drummond and say, okay, we get him, and you put Andre Drummond out there against the Nets with Tatum and Brown who's having a really good year. Mm-hmm. I don't know if the Nets beat the Celtics. I don't think that they do. Okay, then let's look at Philly. Is Philly inconsistent in the past couple of years? Yeah, but here's what I know. Joel Embiid's maybe having the best season of his life.
Yeah.
He's playing great. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you something. If Joel Embiid walks in that court against the Nets, he's getting whatever he wants.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Forget it. You know, Kyle Hall is over. He's getting whatever he wants. So I don't know if I take the Nets over then. And then you have, okay, so let's look at the Western Conference. I think the Nets match up actually good with the Clippers, because the Clippers don't have a big that can just score. You know what I mean? Yeah. I mean, I think they match up good with them. But then, you know, the elephant in the room, the Lakers. Who on the Nets is stopping Anthony Davis?
Well, we know they can't stop anybody. We know that is true. we know that.
Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Like, could they come out of the East? Yeah, they could. Do I think they can win the finals? No, I don't. Are they even my favorites to come out of the East right now? I don't know. I really don't, because until I see what they can do, what they're going to do with the rest of their team, I don't know if I can pick them to win the East. Now, there are two things that they could do that I think can make them better. All right, here's my two things that I think they could do. Number one, now this is doable. Go get PJ Tucker.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought they were going to include him in the James Harden trade, honestly, but
go get PJ Tucker. They just opened up a $5-point-something million exception, an injured exception from Spencer Dinwiddie because he's out. Go get PJ Tucker. PJ Tucker is somebody that will give you defensive stability, and then you're in the playoffs. You can play a Kyrie, James Harden, Jeff Green, PJ Tucker, Kevin Durant lineup. Mm-hmm. So a pretty good lineup, okay? And then you would have basically Durant guarding the 5 or PJ Tucker guarding the 5, which is doable. I think that makes them better, okay? Here's another thing, and here's what I think they should do, but they won't do. They should trade Kyrie.
People are saying that, Andrew. People are saying trade Kyrie for depth.
Do it. Why not? Here's what I know about Kyrie. Kyrie is otherworldly talented. He's one of the best talented players in the history of the game with the ball in his hands. He is a smooth scorer. He had one of the greatest finals performances in NBA history. But here's also what we know about Kyrie. Kyrie may retire next week. Like, yeah. You don't know where Kyrie's at. Now, I think Kyrie is a good dude. There's obviously a lot of good things that he's done off the court, and he should be applauded for that. I think he gets trashed a lot for his office, but he's done a lot of good things as far as social justice and helping people, and I think that's been a really good thing. But I don't know if Kyrie is completely in on basketball going forward.
Yeah.
So if I'm the Nets and I say, all right, I can trade Kyrie, like you said, for depth. I can get a couple pieces because in the playoffs, what do you have to go 7 deep?
Maybe 8 if you're lucky.
Maybe 8.
The Lakers, they go 10. You know what I mean? They have 2 units.
And so you have to go 7 or 8 deep. Right now the Nets go 4. like they don't even their fifth starter is DeAndre Jordan. I think that you're not getting much from him. And so, especially in the playoffs, he'll get played off the court. And so right now with the Nets, I think they're going to be special offensively. Those guys are going to put up insane numbers. And they're going to, if they don't change, they're just going to try to outscore everybody. But I don't know how far they can go.
Yeah, I have them in the finals. Beating the Lakers, I don't see it. Match up well against the Clippers. They do. If Denver just happens to get to the finals, which I don't see that either. Jokic could give them problems, but I think they could beat Denver. But because Denver doesn't have enough scoring, in my opinion. Those are just the 3 teams I'm thinking about. I want the Nets to be successful because people don't want them to be successful. And I like the fact that I'm always on the opposite side of the fence when it comes to certain things. It's just my personality. When people bet against people, I'm like, okay, I want you to do better. People were talking bad on Kyrie. Kyrie's purpose, he has found his purpose outside of basketball. I do believe that.
I agree.
And I don't think this was ever a long-term thing for Kyrie basketball-wise. I think he loves it. He loves it just enough to keep himself into it. But I think in maybe 4 years, if we see him in 4 years when he's probably around 30, in his 30s, maybe I think you'll see Kyrie. I was like, okay, I can walk away from the game of basketball healthy, maybe a couple of championships. He's already got one, maybe a couple of championships, and say that I gave the game what I could, but I found my purpose. And that's totally fine.
Yeah,
that's totally fine.
I like that you said that. Listen, that's okay. That, there's nothing wrong with that. Like that's an okay thing because, you've seen some of these dudes, we think, and I think a lot of the American public thinks, and I'm not trying to get outside of basketball too much, but a lot of the American public thinks that these dudes should just play basketball. And it's like, listen, our purposes for every one of us as individuals are deeper than other people realize. And you can't tell somebody else what their purpose is in life. And I mean, I know LeBron's done a lot as far as using his platform to help others. And, Kyrie has found a purpose outside of basketball, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Good for him, man. If he's happy and if he's at peace doing those things, then that's awesome. Congratulations for him. Now, what does that mean in terms of basketball that we're looking at? Well, it means a little bit of uncertainty for the Nets, and I applaud Kyrie for everything that he's done. The stuff off the court, the good things that he's done. But as far as that team goes, there's a lot of question marks, around that team.
Yeah. And I think there are warranted, should I say, question marks around the Nets organization and team. That's okay. But all in all, I want to enjoy watching them play together because the 3 guys, generational guys that you're not going to see every day playing in New York, didn't choose the Knicks. They chose the Nets.
Yeah, but it would be so much more fun if they were on the Knicks. I mean, it would be like. Yeah. But I'm going to tell you something, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Amber. Tell me a time in NBA history when there have been 3 more offensively talented players on the same team.
It haven't been. You can think about Golden State when they had Clay, KD, and Curry because you had 2 of the best shooters you've ever seen, and then you had Kevin Durant. But it's not the same. I know it's not the same, but I'm just saying
that's close.
That's probably as close as I can think about because in this era of basketball, it's more offensively tailored. There's no more hand checking. You can't do certain things anymore. So offensive players are averaging more points.
And Clay's super talented. I'm not diminishing
Yeah.
Clay, but Clay is somebody that he is a shooter,
Yeah.
and there are times that he can create for himself off the dribble. Okay, Harden, Kyrie, and KD all shoot, all can create off the dribble, all can score in the post. I mean, there's no weaknesses to their game, and I mean, we're talking offensively. But I mean, the only other example I could think, I mean, of three better players. Listen, the Miami Heat big three wasn't as talented as those three guys offensively. It's not close. You know, you have to look back to maybe, I mean, like the 80s. I mean, probably like Magic, Kareem, and Worthy. As far, and maybe Worthy's not on that same, but Worthy was averaging 20 in the, you know, getting All-Star games. And, you know, we know Magic and Kareem, we know how talented they are. The game's different. They're not shooting threes and all that. But I just don't know if we've ever seen three more offensively talented players on the same team at one time. And so I agree with you. I think we're quick to automatically want to hate. And listen, I'm a hater. You know why I'm a hater? Because anytime that LeBron James is threatened, I start hating, and I can't help it because I want people to get out of the way and let LeBron just get his fifth and sixth ring, so I can just yell at everybody and say, "See, look, now he's got the same amount of rings as Jordan." And every time somebody tries to come against that, I start hating. But I can step back and I can say, this is special. These guys are generational talents. And we should appreciate this because when you watch them play basketball offensively, it is something you may never see again.
I agree with that. You might not ever see it again. And I appreciate their greatness individually, and I appreciate their greatness collectively. I do. And that's just how I look at the game of basketball. Everybody is different, of course. Everybody is different. All right, I'm going to move on to a team that people were high on, and GMs voted this guy the most important offseason pickup in Chris Paul. And let's talk about the Phoenix Suns a little bit. Now, I've watched some Phoenix Suns games. They've been on TV I think it's going to be back-to-back nights. They're going to be on TV because I think they're on TV tonight. Yeah, they're on ESPN tonight. So they've been on TV, and people are being able to watch them. They're playing the Nuggets right now, actually, and they're at home. How do you feel about the Phoenix Suns?
The difference that Chris Paul has made and the imprint that he has had on that team is substantial, and it is impressive. Chris Paul brings listen, I know people rag on Chris Paul because he's never won a title, but you take a look back at Chris Paul's career, man. That dude's a winner. He is. I don't care. He's had bad breaks. Okay, you got to look back at his career. This man drug the Hornets in the playoffs when he was there. He went to the Clippers. He took the Clippers further than they had ever been in the history of their franchise. He went to Houston, and if he don't hurt his quad or hamstring, they may have beat the Warriors in 2018, and they may win a finals. And now he goes to the Suns. Or he goes to the Thunder, and the Thunder is like, I don't know, Thunder's not going to be very good. The Thunder were much better than everybody anticipated, and now he's with the Suns, and it's the same thing all over again. Chris Paul's a winner, and I hope for his sake, I don't think it's this team because I think they're really good. I don't think they're title good. I hope for his sake that Chris Paul gets a title because I don't want people to look back at his legacy and say, he wasn't that good. Chris Paul is awesome. And he is an all-time great NBA player, and he is a winner. And he has taken franchises that nobody else has, and he's taken them further than they've ever been. And now since he has been in Phoenix, he's doing that same thing again. I thought Ayton would be a little better. He's not been great so far. I thought that Chris Paul would help him a lot, but maybe it's just going to take him some time. Mm-hmm. But Mikal Bridges has been great. Booker's been great. I'm impressed with him, and I think it has the fingerprints of Chris Paul all over it.
You know what? When I saw Frank the Tank shooting threes out there, I said, Frank, I forgot they got Frank the Tank. I completely forgot that the Suns got him, and they got Jay Crowder, another 3-and-D guy. Mikael Bridges is having a great year. Cameron Payne and Cameron Johnson have played very great for them off the bench. And you look at the Suns, and you're like, the Suns, like, this is what I like. Okay, Monty Williams, I see you. So I love what Phoenix is doing. I've been a Booker fan since they've been putting Booker on TV. Thank goodness you guys have been putting Booker on TV. But thank God I've had NBA League Pass, so I've been able to watch Devin Booker. Because Phoenix wasn't getting that much airtime. They would not put the Phoenix Suns on TV. But Booker was putting on shows. And people are like, who's Devin Booker? Who's Devin Booker? Because we've talked about this before. He got lost in that Kentucky shuffle. You know what I mean? He got lost on that team. And people are like, who is this guy? But I'm happy that they're getting the recognition that they deserve. They'll probably be a top 4 seed in the West. I think, if I'm thinking right, I don't see them going below 6 in the West. I don't think they're
probably, yeah.
Yeah, I don't see them going below 6. I do think that first round matchup, whoever's the 5 seed in the West, if they're the 4-5, or if it's, the 6-3, I think the third best team in the West right now is Utah. We're going to talk about them in a minute. That could be an interesting matchup if they get that 6th seed and say Utah gets the 3rd seed or whatever, if that's how it shakes out.
I'm going to go ahead and tell you something right now. You know my thoughts on Utah, and you know how much I hate Utah. You know that. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you something. Utah better hope to God they don't match up with the Phoenix Suns in the first round, because Utah's getting beat. And I don't care how good they look. I know that they've got a good record, and I know they play well. And I know everybody's doing this. They do this every year. Everybody's like, oh man, Utah's pretty good this year. And then we get in the playoffs, and it's the same thing. Utah is a poverty franchise, and I will not back down from that comment until they prove me wrong. And they better hope to the Lord that they don't play the Phoenix Suns in the first round of the playoffs. That's all I'm saying.
It's a safe space, and I'm sorry, Utah fans, but this is count the bucket. We
it is what it is.
It is out. Phoenix is one of those teams where okay, it's back on. You don't want to see them in the playoffs because Devin Booker can score. Chris Paul is that floor general, and that's a deadly combination because Phoenix does have a go-to guy in Devin Booker, and you need a go-to guy in the playoffs. Chris Paul can get his points when he wants to if he doesn't want to facilitate. DeAndre Ayton has disappointed me this season. He cannot stay out of foul trouble. He still can't stay out of foul trouble, and it irks my nerves when I watch him play. I said, DeAndre Ayton, don't pick up that 3rd foul in the 2nd quarter. Come on, DeAndre. You know you don't want to do it. And what does he do? He fouled. Then he looks at the refs like, he gives that Bradley Beal look like, like, what? Did I foul him? Yeah. If he can learn how to control his body on defense, because that's what it is. He's not controlling his body on defense. The balance is a little off. And I'm getting a little technical, but that's what it is when I watch. He needs a couple of go-to post moves. He has improved his jump shot. I saw him hit a couple threes the other night. So I'm like, okay, DeAndre, okay, you've improved your jump shot, but I want to see him, right hook, left hook, drop step. I want to see some of those traditional post moves from him.
Yeah, that's great that he's improved, but as big as he is, man, and
I know,
listen,
I know.
The big man in the NBA is not dead. We thought that it was dead with the Warriors. We thought the Warriors killed the big man because they didn't play big. I mean, that Hampton's 5 start lineup with KD and Iguodala and Curry and Clay and Draymond, they didn't play big. But the big is back now. Like, we know that a big is useful in the NBA because what the Lakers did last year. And it's like, DeAndre Ayton, you know what? That's great that you've improved your jump shot. But get some post moves, man. Like, you're 2 times bigger than everybody on the court. You should be dominating. Like, you should be when they post him, he should be able to get whatever he wants. And he can't. And that frustrates me because he's too talented and he's too big to float around on the perimeter and say, I've improved my jump shot. Like, that's great. But what Embiid is doing, DeAndre Ayton's not as good as Embiid. He's not. But what Embiid is doing, Ayton should be able to tap into some of that.
Oh yeah, I agree. And I remember I used to complain about Joel Embiid. Get your big butt on the block and bang, Joel. You're so big, you know. But I didn't realize how out of shape he was. You know what I mean? And he's talked about like playing in the post is work. I remember when I used to play in the post in college, I'm like, well, I'm a little more tired than I mean, on the perimeter. Like, what's going on?
There's a reason that Anthony Davis won't play the 5 into the playoffs. Like, he won't. You like Anthony Davis is struggling a little bit to start the year, but he's kind of just floating around. He's not playing in the post more. We saw when he got the post in the playoffs, it was 28-10. But he's talked about it, how hard that is, how physically demanding it is to play down on the block, to play that 5 position, to go up against those big. Because you start banging in the NBA, man. Like, that's a different animal when you're playing that position. It's much easier to float around and shoot jump shots instead of banging down there. But DeAndre Ayton, man, it's just like you're gonna have to do it because that's where you can be special.
Yes, and I want to see more from him. I want him and Chris Paul to kind of get that rapport, that pick and roll rapport. He had it with Steven Adams in OKC, and it was beautiful to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, it was gorgeous. It was so beautiful, I had to whisper. And I want to see how far the Phoenix Suns go. I'm going to ask you a question that you asked me about the Nets. What is the Phoenix Suns ceiling?
Okay, so for me, with them, it'll be matchups. And okay, so like if I'm looking at the West, and there's obviously, and I'm being unbiased. I'm trying to be, okay. It's hard.
Please do.
It's hard. It's hard for me to be unbiased, but I'm going to try to be. Okay, so I literally think, and I'm not just saying this, I think the Lakers are in a tier of their own in the West. Okay,
I agree
or disagree. Okay, so I'm looking at the standings right now. Utah is in second. The Clippers are in third. Phoenix is in fourth. Portland's fifth. Memphis is sixth. Golden State is seventh. San Antonio's eighth. Now, you got to think that Denver and Dallas will be around. They are 9 and 10 right now. They'll be around. Okay. So Phoenix is not falling to the 8 seed, so they're not going to play the Lakers in the first round. Okay. So you're telling me I can have any of those teams. I think they can match up with any of those teams. Like, I think they can match up with any of those teams outside of Los Angeles. For me, the ceiling for them as constructed right now is the Western Conference Finals.
Okay.
I think that, probably where they'll land is the second round. But I think the highest, like, it wouldn't shock me to see them beat, Portland in the first round and then lose to the Clippers in the second round or lose to the Lakers in the second round. But I think their ceiling is the Western Conference Finals.
I like that. When you're looking at matchups, looks like Golden State's found their footing. CJ in Portland, his foot, Nurk's wrist. We'll talk about injuries in the show, of course. And you just don't know the health of the NBA. Like, I just wish we could have a fully healthy season, but that's just not possible. I see them with an upset in the second round. I can see them upsetting somebody in the second round as their ceiling, which would mean the Western Conference Finals. I'm rooting for Phoenix so hard because Monty Williams was an assistant at OKC. He lost his whole family in OKC in a car accident, his wife and his kids. So I root for Monty Williams. I root for him. He's a good man. He's getting another shot at coaching. Devin Booker respects him. Chris Paul respects him. And then Devin Booker respects Chris Paul. So you have all their respect in one room. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. Phoenix has a floor general and a locker room leader. That is very important. The Clippers don't quite have that. That's why they just fell apart last year. And then all those reports came out after the season ended about Kawhi and PG, kind of flexing on practice, coming when they want to come, and blase. They seem to have calmed the locker room noise down this year with Ty Lue at the helm. But they have the veteran presence and they have the scoring. The depth, can those young guys perform in the playoffs? I want to see that. Devin Booker said he's tired of losing. He's tired of not making the playoffs. And that's good to see. That's good to see.
They've probably thanks, man. She's doing good. Thank you. My man Alex coming through.
Yeah, Alex coming through.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Alex. She's doing good now. We got her some medicine. She's doing good. She's now screaming and running around. But I think Phoenix still probably has a move to make.
Okay.
I think there's a move out there. I don't know what it is. That may be another team that you may that may try to go get PJ Tucker. I mean, yeah, I think PJ Tucker is kind of the guy that a lot of teams are going to covet when it comes to the trade deadline, because he can play. He's a one of the best corner three shooters in the NBA. He's can guard 4 spots on defense. Great player, and that may be another team that may look and say, okay, we could use him. Yes.
He drops his Woj bombs every show. We love it, Alex. We love it.
But I think they have another move to make, and I would be interested to see what that move is. And I hope they make it. And then we'll see where they go from there. I'll be honest with you, if the Lakers, if you were telling me, all right, the Lakers are not going to win this year, you can pick any other team to win, it'll be the Suns. Like, I would want the Suns to win, because I really want Chris Paul to win a title, man. Like, I think that his legacy is going to be skewed because he's never going to win a title, and people are going to look back at that and they're going to say, well, he wasn't this, he wasn't that. Listen, Chris Paul has been a generational point guard in this league for since he was drafted 35,000 years ago, and he's been a great player, and I just really want them to be able to win for Monty Williams.
Alex is Woj bombs.
Like Jared Dudley used to play for the Suns?
Yes, when he was Jared Dudley.
Yeah, so does he get like, if he gets traded back to the Suns, does he get like the LeBron "I'm coming home" like that? Oh, I'm coming home, like that's how thing. Jared Dudley comes back and leads the Suns to a
Can he retire? He can retire Phoenix Sun. Can he retire his jersey? Is that what's going to happen in Phoenix?
LeBron and Anthony Davis are not letting Jared Dudley get traded. Are you kidding me? That there's no chance. He is Jared Dudley, man. He has found his role. Like, he can barely run up and down the court, but he is a locker room guy. And people think, well, that's stupid. No, that's important, because we know that locker rooms fluctuate. You heard about all the stuff with the Clippers last year. They needed a locker room guy that just kept things together. And that's what Jared Dudley is for the Lakers.
That's exactly what he does. And he gets paid handsomely to do it. I mean, if I could be a locker room gal and get paid almost $2 million a year, I'm for it.
Let me be a locker room guy. Like, I'm a good guy. Like, I can talk to people. You pay me, I'll go try to get in shape. Let me be a locker room guy. I'll get those checks, man.
I don't mind. I used to get upset, because Miami's signed Udonis Haslem, but you need to not make sense for Miami to sign Udonis Haslem. So I was like, okay, locker room guy, right? He was on a podcast, and he said that if James Harden would have came to Miami, it would have took 15 years off his life or something like that. I think he said something along those lines. Basically, he thinks James Harden is a headache. That's what Udonis Haslem, that's how he feels about James Harden. And he said he didn't fit the Heat culture, which we can never really tell, because when James Harden's into it, he's into it. I think he just wanted to get out of Houston, so he did what the heck he wanted to do. In Brooklyn, he's probably a little bit more low key, and just chilling, So,
but we all know what James Harden's doing right now. Listen, we all know what James Harden's doing right now. James Harden is doing the old, I'm going to a new job, so I'm going to be on my best behavior. We all know that. You've been at some job in your life, you switched positions or you went to a different place, and the first 2 months you're like, I'm going to be like on my best behavior and I'm going to do all the right things. And then 2 months into the job, you're wearing jogging pants and you're coming in late. James Harden is James Harden, and he might be on his best behavior right now. But you wait. I still think there's more to this. And if James Harden's out clubbing in a couple months, we'll know.
Well, no, okay. I think I'm going to say this. I have the best for people. I wish the best for people.
Me too.
I'm going to say James Harden is going to button up, wear his bow tie, and be a model citizen.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going to say, Andrew. Can I say that?
Oh, for sure.
Can I say that? Okay. All right. I just wanted to make sure. Alex said James Harden is currently getting endorsed by a deal by Sage Incorporated company.
Yeah. So we were talking about locker room guys. Like Jared Dudley's the locker room guy. The Brooklyn Nets have like the opposite of locker room guys. Like James Harden and Kyrie are whatever Jared Dudley is as the locker room guy. Those two are like the opposite. Like DeMarcus Cousins was getting ready to fight James Harden by the time that he was leaving Houston, and he's like so they're now. But you're telling me that James Harden is now a locker room guy. You're like he's buttoned up his collar. He's now a locker room guy. Is that what you're telling me?
I mean, per Shams, he has the Sage. He has cleansed his mind of all things negative. That includes strippers, chicken wings, and traveling without a mask. I mean, if we can get that going, then hey, the possibilities are endless. I think if we sage that locker room, Kyrie, do your thing, buddy. I'm just gonna tell Kyrie.
We're counting on you, Kyrie.
We're counting on you, Kyrie. All right, we've had a great show, but tonight we're going to end the show with some injury reports. So I got some injury reports from my good friend at Unwrapped Sports Network. His name is Deepak. I think that's Deepak. I think that's how you say his name. He's a part of the Unwrapped Sports Network, and this is from Sports Med Analytics. So
shout out to him for putting us on this. I mean, he was talking to us in the group chat. He put us on this, so shout out to him.
So I got a couple of injury notes that he sent me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Evan Fournier, he had symptom management will be key. Started off strong with 24 points in his return. They played tonight. But he had back spasms. So we have to look and see how those back spasms play out. It's getting colder, even though Orlando's warm. It's getting colder. I think he played tonight. Because the Magic played tonight. They lost to the Pacers by 2.
I would also like to say that I have back spasms. So add me to the injury report.
Andrew Williams has back spasms. Add him to the injury report.
Add me on
status unknown per Woj.
Yeah.
All right. Under his ability to work out, he has requested to trade to another state per Woj. Oh goodness. Alex, get you some of that CBD cream. You'll be okay from Arx Hemp. You'll be all right. All right, Miles Turner. His injury status is 2 weeks, so it's a 2-week timeline. He leads the NBA in blocks. I've been hard.
Having a good season.
Yes, he is. I've been hard on Miles Turner. Not just because he went to the University of Texas.
Yeah.
Hook 'em horns. Yeah. But I've been hard on him because I want him to score more. But the more I sit back and watch his game, he's a defensive guy. He gets blocks. That's what he does.
Hey, Amber, how good is Sabonis?
Oh my goodness.
He's great. Like he is.
Leave OKC and just put up double-doubles on a regular basis.
He's awesome, man. He's a great player.
He is. He is a great player. And Indiana got their win tonight. Malcolm Brogdon was their leading scorer. Sabonis had 11 rebounds and 9 assists in that game.
Hey, Amber, you know who could use Malcolm Brogdon right now?
I think the Clippers could, but go ahead.
I'll tell you who could use him. The Milwaukee Bucks.
Yeah. No. You want to do a swap? I mean, he's scored this season. He's really upped his offensive game this season.
Like they let Malcolm Brogdon walk to go to Indiana. Malcolm Brogdon's good. I don't know. I mean, I think Malcolm Brogdon might be. I mean, are we sure that Drew is better than Malcolm Brogdon?
Defensively, yes. I have to say that.
Right. Offensively?
No.
Are we sure?
Yeah, that's true. I like what Drew's done in Milwaukee, but that's not enough for them to win the championship. It's not enough for them to win the East, in my opinion.
They could use Brogdon. Shouldn't have let him walk.
Yeah, I agree with that. This is a big one for people out west. CJ McCollum, 6 week return timeline with that fracture. I think he's in left foot.
Yeah, he's
Foot
so good.
injuries are tricky.
He was
Yeah,
playing
he was having an all-star season. And alongside with Dame, those shooting guards in the West, it's hard to get in an all-star game. But he was playing very well. He's playing very well. We know Nurk is out with his wrist injury. I think his timeline, they reevaluate him in 8 weeks. But CJ being out, Dame's number 2. Dame is a lot of pressure on Dame. Alex said Brogdon player props are money per Alex. He's been hitting those player props, Alex. Shout out to Bets Unwrapped. They're going live tomorrow night, guys. You want to win some money? Bets Unwrapped goes live tomorrow. All right, Russell Westbrook. This is huge, but the Washington Wizards haven't played in so long. 1 or 2 week return timeline. I think it's his quad again. If I'm not mistaken. So he's been out for a while. The Washington Wizards haven't played for a while. They might have some more injuries because they haven't played in so long. Like I mentioned before at the beginning of the show, they just started practice this week again. So with COVID, a lot of things going on. And here's a big one. This trade saved this guy's career. Karis LeVert undergoing kidney mass workup, likely out at least a month pending further results. So they're going to look at that mass and see what they need to do to it to keep it under control. And hopefully he can get back on the court. I want to see him back on the court in March. I would really love to see that. Karis LeVert was playing out of his mind in the bubble. And then he played out of his mind at the beginning of the season. Karis LeVert was hooping.
Yeah.
I like him. Michigan guy. They won tonight, by the way. Michigan guy. I enjoy watching him play. All right, Andrew, any last thoughts? Anything you're looking forward to?
I'm just looking forward to the continued dominance of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Oh, boy.
They're clearing away the best team. LeBron 34 last night. Just reminding everybody, any time that LeBron goes up against Giannis, he has to remind Giannis, who should have been the MVP last year. And so, and also, the Lakers getting big contributions from the man that came back from that he was out with some contract chasing stuff. The GOAT Alex Caruso is back, shooting 54% from the 3-point line this year.
Finally.
Here's what I know.
Finally.
Are you ready for this, Amber? Are we sure that Alex Caruso is not Klay Thompson? Are we sure that Alex?
That we know. We're sure of.
Are we sure? I don't know. I don't know.
I like the white chocolate headband just as much as you do. Okay, I love it just as much as you do.
Are we sure? I don't know. That listen, Alex Caruso, lockdown defender. Alex Caruso now 54% 3-point shooter. It is what it is. So another thing, Schroeder's playing really good for the Lakers. Montrezl Harrell is playing excellent for the Lakers. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope has got all the confidence in the world. LeBron is rolling. The one guy that's not playing good yet is Anthony Davis. Boy, Anthony Davis will come on, I promise you. I'm looking forward to the Lakers' continued dominance.
So, fun fact about Michael. Michael's nickname was White Chocolate Basketball. And we're going to, Alex, we have these reports. Are these per Woj, per Shams, or per Alex? That's all I need to know. You know what I mean? That's what I'm interested to see. I'm interested to see how far per Alex. Is it per Alex? I'm interested to see he said per Alex. Okay, all right. We trust that information. It comes from Unwrapped Sports Network. We trust it. I'm interested to see how hot Utah can stay. Can Utah stay this hot? I know what you're going to say about Utah. I already know it's coming, Andrew. But I'm curious to see how hot Utah can stay. Shaq said what he said about Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell said, all right.
Shaq and Chuck need to quit hating, man.
I thought it was funny. I thought it was hilarious because it's coming from Shaq. Like
Shaq and Chuck got to quit hating.
It's been a great show, ladies and gentlemen. We've had fun. I'm happy to have Andrew back. We got some Woj bombs. We got Shams reports. We got per Alex reports. We appreciate all of the comments that come in from the Unwrap Sports Network. And if you're not a part of the Unwrap Sports Network, we appreciate you tuning in and also spending this hour with us, hour and 4 minutes. Actually, Andrew and I get long-winded, guys. It's okay. We love to talk hoops. Andrew missed us. Andrew missed us.
I'm back.
He's back. Shaq is mad he doesn't have hair like Mitchell Woj. He has good hair. Yeah, I like Mitchell's hair. But I didn't pay the bills beginning of the show. I'm sorry, guys. I forgot to pay the bills. It's scrolling across the screen. Check out mybookie.ag. Use the code USN100. Double your first deposit. Alex and Corey bets unwrapped. Then we got bands with Caleb. So Caleb is doing bands, and we missed Andrew per Perry. Aww.
No.
So much love in the network. So much love.
Let's go.
Also, since every 4 years is having those back spasms, you can get you some CBD cream. Check out rxhemp.com. Use the code rxhemp/USN to get 10% off your order. Also, I've got some gear coming in. Count the Bucket's going to have some gear. Get you some gear. teespring.com/store/unwrap to get all your Unwrap Network gear. We appreciate the support, guys. Andrew and I'll be back next week. You're going to see our beautiful faces sometime during the week. We're trying to figure out how to get you guys NBA content during the week. Some people use the StreamYard. Andrew has a family, so I work around Andrew's schedule, of course. We're just happy to have him back. I'm happy to have my buddy back. Great dynamic with Andrew. Andrew, do you have anything you want to say, anything you want to shout out before we end the show tonight?
Just if you're feeling down about yourself, just remember that you'll never be as bad a basketball player as Mario Hezonja. So if anybody out there is depressed or feeling bad right now, just be uplifted to know that you are a better basketball player than Mario Hezonja. So
positive words from a positive man. And I'll say this. Shout out to Coach Tibbs for having the New York Knicks #1 in the defense in the NBA. All right. With that being said, thank you so much, Alex. Thank you.
And also, listen, shout out to Pat Beverly for still being terrible at the game of basketball as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can I get one more shout out? I'll give another shout out. Shout out to Colin Sexton for improving his game from last season. I'm appreciating Colin Sexton right now. Colin Sexton is putting people on notice. The Cleveland Cavaliers, I don't think they have any national televised games, if I'm thinking correctly. I don't think they do. And also, one more shout out for me. Yes, Young Bull, Sexland. I think they're calling Cleveland Sexland now.
It's odd.
That's odd. That's odd. I think Larry Nance Jr. came up with that name, honestly. Yeah, the Young Bull. Actually, also
shout out Tom Brady.
There you go. Shout out to Oklahoma City Thunder for playing very good basketball right now.
Yeah, shout out Tom Brady. We're going to Green Bay and we're winning. We're going to Super Bowl. Me and Tom Brady. So shout out him.
I'm with that. I'm a huge Tom Brady fan. I'm a huge Gronk fan.
Yep.
So I'm riding them all the way to the Super Bowl, baby. Shout out to Drew Brees for a wonderful career.
And shout out to Drew Brees for going out awful too, for throwing all those interceptions. So shout out him.
All right, last comment. Sexland sounds inappropriate per Pat Bev.
Shout out Alex too. Shout out Alex.
Yeah, Alex and Perry. Everybody in the comments, we appreciate it. We'll be back next week. We'll be back next week with another episode of Count the Bucket. See you later, guys.
See you all.